Eremos is more than a name. It's a way of life. It's our sanctuary, our escape from the noise, and our connection to the deeper meaning of our lives. It's about finding joy in the outdoors, seeking growth, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. Welcome to Elevate and Explore, a podcast where we dive into the beauty of nature, self-discovery, and the endless possibilities that come with living intentionally. Welcome to our journey. Hello, everybody. I'm Aaron.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the Elevate and Explore podcast. And we've got Joshua Finch back with us again. Thank you for coming with us, Josh.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being on here last time. I can't wait to see what comes out this time.
Excellent. So, Josh, if you don't mind, just give us a short recap of who you are, what you do, and what your mission is.
Yeah, so I am Joshua Finch. My personal brand and company is Star Hero Guide, and I'm helping you step into the light so you can shine bright. And I learned a lot of the language and the modalities from my mentor, which is Tammy Valyers, and she is with Kindergarten Masterclass, which is much more than just kindergarten. It's hero intelligence. So it's tapping into like this inner hero inside of us and being able to bring that forth. And how does that actually look, right? When we look at the details is emotional intelligence. We understand our energy, our emotions, how to speak about our feelings, how to communicate, collaboration over competition. So now we're coming together as a team and we're working together. How do we have peace, love, and harmony in our homes, in our education, in our hearts, in our hands, in our service? And that's what I do is I'm a teaching artist that helps teach through the arts all of these kind of topics and concepts. But I use simple things like stories and cartoons and songs to help kids really bring that in before it has to be reprogrammed. So that's what I'm doing in my life and my purpose. And my mission is to really just help bring peace, love, and harmony to homes, to caregivers, to teachers, to anybody that cares about the children in the next generation. And of course, all of it is attached to Mother Earth and nature and the animals. And those are the mentors that we attach the arts and the stories to. So that way, as they fall in love with the animal friends and the stories that come with them, they become their mentors and their guides. And the stories can kind of like live through them and they can remember the earth, the animals, and what we can do on the planet together.
Well, Josh, we learned so much the last time. It only gives us excitement to get into another episode. So what is your primary age group of children?
So my primary age group right now is 5 to 12 years old. My specialty and the ones that I spend the most time with, I would say, is about 5 to 10 years old. After around 10, does shift into quite a different dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And just in your experience, working with children, we had a chance to talk earlier in the episode. Just, children bring a lot of meaning into our lives, and especially shifting, from my perspective, being a single male and shifting into more of a father figure or, that uncle figure, if you will, you get to see things through kids' eyes. So what are some of the coolest things that you've got to see in that age group and in your profession?
Oh man, I get to see beautiful things all the time working with them. Some of the most beautiful things is really just learning a deeper understanding into myself, because I do work a lot with therapy and understanding how to work and heal by understanding my inner child. And one thing was when an 8-year-old boy was playing with two girls that are like his best friend, but the boy was trying to play and he was with his other friend, and the girls kind of wanted to play with the one guy, not him, and he got his feelings hurt. And what happened is he went and walked away, and I went to go find him and work with him, and I found him up in a tree crying. And I was like, whoa, he's up in the tree crying. And when I saw him in the tree, I remembered that was my safe space. So when his emotion, his feelings were getting hurt, he went to go find his safe space so he could deal with what he needed to deal with, and it was in a tree. And I realized, oh man, that was me when I was 8. I probably had some girls hurt my feelings or break my heart or whatever it was, or just tell me they don't want to play right now, or I'm not your friend. You know what I mean? Like simple stuff that 8-year-old goes through. But then I got to see, oh wow, that could have just been me, and that could actually make a really big difference in my life. It's just having my feelings hurt and having nobody. I was there to go and talk him through it and be like, hey, how you want to talk about this? And that's one. And then like right at the same moment, same topic, same tree, I'm also working a totally different time, different day with a 5-year-old, and we all want to climb this tree because it's this really cool tree and we all want to climb it. And 5-year-olds are really excited because they had never climbed trees. Like they're just learning about trees. And I got a couple of them, and this little girl, she's 5, and she's climbing up the tree. Halfway up, she starts shaking. She starts getting like anxiety and worry. I don't know. I can't do it. It's too high. I'm going to fall. It's scary. I'm going to die. And like starts getting really, really scared. And I got to be with her and just witness her and tell her, it's okay. You're actually scared right now. It's okay to be scared right now. And I want you to say after me, I'm scared and I'm going to do it anyways. And I literally got to sit with her for like 10 minutes, let her cry and just cry and cry and just hold presence for her. And then all of a sudden, I got her to get enough courage where she climbed out on this branch, and we had a rope hanging down. So she's literally climbing up in this tree, climbing down this rope. And that was like the goal. She finally gets to the rope, crying and crying, but still doing it, and gets down to the ground. Oh, I did it, and burst into like the most magical experience of her life. I'm gonna go do it again. It was the best thing in the world. But I actually got to hold space and watch her go through something that could have been like, it's too scary, I'm never gonna do it again.
That's awesome.
That's,
And go ahead, Aaron.
as I say, that's neat to have, that impact on these kids' lives. And one of my questions was, I was curious about, with you doing this over the years, have you been in contact with kids maybe you taught, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and now they're, teenagers or young adults, and, be able to see them be out in the real world and be able to articulate their feelings and see the impact you've made on their life?
Yes, I have seen the impact, and I have actually gotten messages from them personally,
Cool.
and I've gotten messages from their parents, and some really beautiful stuff. So I work with Turtle, and Turtle is a teacher for transformation and finding center inside his shell and finding peace. And peace begins with me, and that's where we start in our heart. So we've got to be able to find center. So Turtle helps us breathe in and breathe down and connect with the ground so we can center our energy and find peace. So we always start each class with peace begins with me, and breathing and meditation and how to center, so that way we can have focus and then we can flow. So now I'm teaching them this when they're 4, 5, 6 years old. And I've gotten a few messages from parents when their kids are at home saying, I feel anxiety, I need to go meditate. And they go sit on the stairs and they sit down and they meditate like Turtle, and they find peace again. And it's they have their own self-awareness. Their parents didn't tell them, go figure this out. They tell their parents, Mr. Joshua said, when I need to find peace, I need to just go meditate. So then they go and do it, and they're only 6 years old. And it's like, whoa, that's a really cool one when they can self-regulate because they have a tool.
Yeah, I'm sure that feels great, when you get that feedback, later on after you've worked with them, and, see the impact you've made in their life. And I'm sure that feels phenomenal for you on the inside and brings you a lot of joy.
Yeah. It's it's what I'm meant to do here, and it's definitely just my favorite thing in the world. I do it all day, every day. And then you can see what it happens, because that was a 6-year-old. Not too long within that same year period, I had an 8-year-old who is actually one of my mentors and kind of like an apprentice, and he works with me, and I teach him like stuff at home, and he's really connected. And he learned meditation. He's my master's of meditation, and he's also the meditation artist. So we draw the pictures to help everybody understand through pictures. But his family just got done traveling, went to a birthday party, came home, and his parents are super exhausted, red-eye flight. They're getting agitated. They start yelling at each other, getting the energy all high in the house. And the 8-year-old goes, "Oh, I'm going out back to meditate. I'll let you guys do your thing. I'm going to go out back to meditate." And his parents are like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, I need to go find peace. I'm going to go meditate out back." And his parents are like, "Well, wait. Can we come with you?" And he goes out back and led his parents in a stillness and silence meditation to regulate his parents. And he's the 8-year-old. So he became the teacher with Turtle, and he actually invited his parents in, and now he was the one doing it. So when they hit the 8 mark, they have a little bit more awareness to be able to do that. When they're in the 6 and the 5, at least they're taking care of themselves.
Sure.
But you can see what's going to happen as they keep going, and they have the tools to help understand their energy and how to regulate. It's not only going to help just them anymore. It's going to help whoever's around them, that they know that they can help them, which then makes them feel like me. Is now you have a purpose and a passion, and you feel like, man, I'm here on purpose, and I know what I'm doing, and I understand what it is. I'm here to help people. So.
And Josh, one of the things that you brought up earlier is so relatable and hits home on so many levels. So I think, in this conversation, you just get sucked into this mindset of being a young child again. I'm almost 32. I've traveled the country. I've tried new things. I feel like I've been able to learn and adapt. But thinking back to, say, the time I was 12, 13 years old, you get into a moment where, say, I'm scared, I have fears about something, I'm climbing the tree and I think I'm going to die. And I don't have that mentor or coach to tell me things are going to be okay. And it's acceptable to try new things. And the first experience, as you were talking about that, climbing the tree for the 5-year-old comes to me is a couple of weeks ago. I started dating a girl. She's got 2 13-year-old kids. They're twins. They're both 13. One of them is very adventurous. One of them's willing to try new things. The other one is a little bit more calm and collected. And Jack and I, we went camping. And this kid is good at everything he touches. He has no fears, no doubts, no nothing. I've put him in a skid steer. I've put him in an excavator. I've gave him free range to just try something new, and he loves it. He's fueled by it. And I never thought anything of it. I thought of myself at that young age of, well, if I had a chance to go in an excavator, I'd love it. And you talk about that safe space of, the other girl doesn't want to play with you. She doesn't want to talk to you. Where's my safe space? Well, my safe space was always just, well, I have a tent or a tarp. I'm going to go and I'm going to camp. If I'm going to camp under a structure, or if I'm going to go camp in the woods or wherever, even if it was for, a half hour, whatever the time frame was when I was a kid, I would just go do that. And I've always had that mentality of quick, resort to the woods, pitch a tent, all your problems are solved. And I thought in that moment that Jack would want to experience that with me, and he was going to be in the same position. And we went to set up a tent, and ironically enough, the tent pole broke, so we couldn't set up the tent, and I gave him a hammock. So we're out in the national forest. We're miles from civilization. It's quiet. It's just peaceful. I'm loving it. And Jack, he loves it too. But he got into the tent, and a few minutes went by, probably 15 or so. I pitched an air pad in the bed of my truck and a sleeping bag, and I was content. I was about ready to fall asleep, and Jack said, "I'm scared." And I thought to myself for a minute, it's okay to be scared. Don't worry. What do I need to do to help you not feel scared and still be present and feel safe, right? And I pat myself on the back for that, because I don't think I've ever had anybody to reach out in that aspect or capacity and let you know that everything's going to be okay, but also come up with a reasonable solution. And I think that's a lot of what you do is help to guide and coach in that reasonable solution and thought process to say, it's okay. These are feelings. These are emotions. These are natural things that we experience as human beings. How do we proceed forward? So I said, Jack, I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, the hammock's way more comfortable. Why don't you take the air mattress and sleep in the back seat of the truck where you're safe? You're inside closed doors. He heard some leaves crunching, and he said, I think a coyote's going to eat me. And I said, don't worry about the coyote. I said, it's probably just a possum or who knows what, but maybe it's even birds picking at the leaves. And it was that moment I started thinking about this, and there is so much inner child work.
Yep.
Back to that point of when we were kids, think back of, years and years ago, where did things go wrong?
Josh, you're muted. Sorry, I muted you
No, that's
there. There was
perfect.
a
I
lot of
know I'm at the activist thing. So
We still connected?
yeah,
Yes.
where I was hearing is, because you broke up a little bit, Ryan, is being able to go back and find those things that were an imprint on you, those things that definitely impacted you and maybe are not impacting you in the best way, right? They gave you negative information, which if you're in the woods and you think everything's going to kill you, you might imprint everything in the woods is dangerous, which is just a fear, which doesn't, it is real. The fear is real for you, but it doesn't mean it's true. And then what is you held presence, and you held safety for him, and then you gave him words to kind of talk to his inner dialogue and re-center back into safety. And it's beautiful. And then with Turtle, so Turtle is the transformational teacher, and Turtle helps us find our center. And Turtle helps us know that if we want to show our best life, we have to have peace within our shell, so that way we can have peace outside of our shell. But we always go within first to find our own peace, so that way we can come out to have exterior peace, right? So that's part of Turtle also doing a deep dive into the ocean and going deep into our emotions with that. So now when you sit in stillness and silence with Turtle and you go within your shell, you're in that silence, and in that silence you can have things start to surface. And when they surface, you can have the awareness of them now and see, oh, this actually is a true fear, and it's something, sorry about the sound in the background. This is a true fear, or is it not? Like, is this something real, or is this something not? Is this something that I could look at and really start to see and unpack? What does it really mean for me? And that's where you can do it by yourself. So maybe if you sit long enough by yourself, but if you have a mentor or a guide or a teacher, well, now you could just do it a lot faster. And that's a lot of what I do with the curriculum with Masterclass and the Hero Intelligence curriculum, is helping people not even really fully upfront know. They're like kind of like they're put into the stories where I can just say turtle, and every little kid's gonna love the turtle. But then I can start to do everything that I'm saying right now, is going within your shell and finding peace.
Now that metaphor of the turtle, I think, teaching young children, giving them something physical to think about and physical to hold is fantastic. And as adults, we get so caught up in work and life and everything around us. We don't have something to resort back to and stop and have that, spiritual, metaphorical coach to say, okay, stop. Here's the feeling, here's the thought, here's the emotion, the worry, the anxiety, the stress. Put it out in front of you, and then start taking it piece by piece and pulling it back to you and saying, okay, well, this is why, this is how I felt, this is why I feel that way, this is where it comes from. And you start climbing this ladder just to get back to yourself, and you realize we had it the whole time. We completely understood it, but that frustration of anxiety, stress, fear, whatever, it just compounds in us, and then it becomes this mental state that we hold on to, because the mental state is our happy space, not the logical thought process of solving why we got there.
Yes, it's not logical. So like here's another one. So right, so everything that I can teach, I can bring it all the way down into the 5-year-old mindset. So this is actually Cupcake. It's one of Harmony Hare's friends, and Harmony Hare is a hare, which is also a toy maker, but she also helps other people find their purpose because she's creative and she builds with her hands and she makes toys and she helps other people find their purpose. So with the story of an animal that they can hold on to and love and cherish, you can tell them that story a couple times and they're going to remember it. Stories go right to their heart. Like, so it's a work of art. Like when you tell them a really good story and you give them a stuffy, that's it. It's in. I don't need them to memorize something. I don't need them to write 10 things. I don't need them to do anything. Now they have it. Now, if those stories have emotional intelligence or emotional awareness and a regulation tools to come with it, well, now you can actually do your own story writing. And here's where I was going with that is Harmony Hare has three elements in her head. She has her hero, her victim, and her villain. So is the story in my head, oh my gosh, you suck so bad, you did horrible, you're not smart, blah, blah, blah. Is it a villain and being a bully to me? Or is it like, oh man, my family's just not smart, we didn't go to school, I don't have money and we never had money, so now I'm a victim, so it's all poor me? Or is it, man, am I thinking about this the right way? Oh, I know Turtle, he would just sit still and be with himself and figure it out, or he would use this tool or that tool to figure out what it is, and now has the power back. The hero has the power. So if your voice is not empowering you, well, then it's probably not true. And it's really your victim or your villain. So now when you can identify the voice in your head, which is a story, which everything I'm doing in the curriculum is stories. So we're very aware of stories. And now we say, oh, is that story actually true? And can we sit with it and see what it really means to us? Can we open it up? And that's where a guide will help you open it up. But you only need to open it up a few times and then you start to get it. But if you do that from 5 to 10 years old, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I know it's going to happen because I've seen it in the classroom, but being able to stop the story and say pause. Mm-hmm. So we have pause, ponder, and then plan a new story, right? Find your power. So I can run with all the ABCs and all kinds of transformational language, pause, ponder, power, right? Now we can play with a new story and we can listen to what our brain's going to say to us. So those stories are very, very powerful. And if you can have language to be like, oh, is that when you're telling your 5-year-old, is that your hero talking? Or is that your victim? Like you can actually say stuff like that. And then we have stories that actually the stories themselves are giving them examples. So yeah, those inner dialogue is very, very important to be able to transform your life. If you don't know that you always tell a victim story, well, your life is going to show up for me all the time. Mm-hmm. So, and that's, we want kids to be in power. That would actually be a very clear statement is we have the website for the curriculum that I teach with my mentor is raisingempoweredkids.com. So raising empowered kids. And that's what we want to do is we want to give everybody their power so they can make a conscious choice.
You know, that empowerment and changing the story, we talked about it last week, and Aaron, you know, talking about just writing some notes on these big sticky notes on the wall. Aaron did not write, and Aaron, you can tell this better than I can, but it wasn't the writing of the Post-it notes, somebody telling him to change his way of thinking or change the approach or the way he thought about himself, but rather he was telling himself, changing that inner monologue of, you know, today's going to be a great day. I am worthy. I am valuable. This is the things that I'm chasing. I am pursuing great things.
Yeah, it's essentially, you know, I was struggling with getting out of bed in the morning, you know, on time, doing whatever. So I made this poster on my wall. It says, you know, wake up, do your affirmations, do your yoga, do this, do that. And it's something, you know, not like a poster that I got from Walmart or whatever. That's something it's myself telling me that I need to do this, that this is what I want to do. And it's just a reminder that I see every morning to help remind myself of what I need to do to get my day off to the right foot, get started properly, how I want to live my day each day.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And that's another way that we start our class is with affirmations. So we're affirming the truth. We're affirming our power. We're affirming that we are divinely connected, divinely provided, we're divinely protected. And you're being your own mentor. You're being your
Yeah.
own helper. And that's the beautiful thing about word is word can, like the power of the word can do that. And if you have the awareness that I know I'm in my victim or villain. Well, right there, you have the keys to do something about it. It's the problem is when you don't know, and you're walking around asleep and you have no clue. And it's really nobody's fault because we didn't have any of these tools. There was nothing like this when we were growing up. So now the children get them, but then now I work with families and the parents get them, and then we want the teachers to get them, and I coach adults as well. So it's coming here now, but the awareness is key. And then you have the power to write on my wall, this is what I want to create. And then you can remind yourself when you see it, which is really cool, is you're creating your own habit. Once you've seen that for long enough, your mind will actually have a channel in it and it'll actually create a habit for it. And your brain's like, you like it, it's working for us. Don't think about it anymore. Put that on autopilot. And then you can do the next thing. And that's the power of habit and the beauty of having awareness to coach yourself and help yourself stay in your hero and keep your power.
You talk about that awareness and just seeing things from a different perspective. Stop, talk to yourself, think things out, have a mentor. We briefly discussed it before the podcast, was just unpacking some of that childhood trauma of how do we get into these positions where we're at in life, and why do we think a certain way, or what makes us who we are today. And I mentioned it earlier, was just seeing the light of a young child solve problems and figure things out, and get frustrated with something, and then you have to be the one to tell them, like, it's okay, that's normal. You're trying to learn new things, you're trying to do new things. But if you're trying to be vocal and you're trying to sort through a problem, and maybe you don't have the maybe as a young child you're screaming your way through it or having a temper tantrum, and you get scolded for it in that moment. Well, now all of a sudden you're kind of being brandished for not being able to solve problems. You're being told to solve the problem in a different way. And it impacts us as an adult, because now it's like, okay, well, I have a temper tantrum and nobody's going to tell me I can't do that. And now all of a sudden you're being hostile, you're being aggressive, you're maybe shutting down and going back into the turtle shell, and that's your safe space, and being quiet and not actually solving the problem. You're just covering it up because that's what we had to do as kids. So I think a lot of what you're doing is fantastic stuff, and especially opening up some of those emotions and feelings and thought processes as children. I can't help but think you are raising some impressive young adults in the near future.
They all are very beautiful. And when they don't get scolded, which would be most likely like a shame, or like you're wrong or bad, then you're putting that on top of them to form them. But if you can stay curious and ask curious questions, and like for me, I've been working with Hero Intelligence and with Tammy long enough now where I embody it. And I didn't want to just learn it to be a teacher or something like that. Like, oh man, let me get a really good curriculum and just get it so I can do that with my job, because my job is my life. I don't really separate it a lot of times. As soon as you started saying, if I'm feeling bad about doing something or I'm messing up, I immediately think of Annie the Ant. So Annie the Ant's an adventurer, and she's got the artist mindset, and she says, do it again and again and again, all the way to the end, again and again and again. So instead of me saying, oh, you're doing that wrong, or stop, do this, this, and this, I can say, oh my gosh, what does Annie the Ant say? and they'll be like jokingly annoyed, like, oh, again and again and again, all the way to the end. So instead of me battling and trying to overpower my child, which is what we were taught, so no shame on whoever's listening to that, right? Because I'm not going to do that. What would it be like if you could just remind them of a story that you read to them at night before you went to bed? Or what did Mr. Joshua say today when you were doing his art lesson with him and you watched his video and we were doing Annie the Ant? What does Annie the Ant say? What would she say about that? And now it's not shame on you for not knowing, shame on you for doing the wrong thing. It's what would the character do? How would the character act? So now they don't even feel like they're getting wrong at all. They're just, oh, Annie the Ant says do it again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've taken away the shame, which means they're going to learn and grow without being depowered and controlled. They get to still keep their special, their sovereign gift. They get to keep their unique identity, which is the beautiful thing that anybody that has witnessed a 5 or a 3-year-old doing that pure like innocence and that expression and that creativity. That's the gift that you get to keep by not taking it and squishing it. So you're going to get to witness that. And maybe you're learning about what an inner child is at 5 years old, and you get to witness it so much so that it shows you how to take care of your own inner child. And then that would be like the loop and the thing that I stand for. And I keep, and that would be my wish for anybody, is to be a parent where they don't have to do that, because parents don't want to feel like a bad parent by yelling and screaming at their kid to get them to do it. But sometimes it's real. I mean, I get a lot of parents, it's real that you got to just scream and yell times because you don't know what else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, if you know me or you see any of the stuff I do or you hear any of the things I got going on, you don't have to anymore. You don't have to feel that. You don't have to shame them. You don't have to be ashamed of yelling at them. And you can have fun. It can be a lot more peaceful. And that's, again, peace, love, and harmony, and teaching and holding space. So
What would be your number one piece of advice to parents of maybe a child who maybe they struggle with getting through to, that doesn't want to talk to them, or just overall general advice for parents, with young kids, set them up for their best selves?
I would say that holding a safe space is probably one of the most important things that I've learned. That is one of the most powerful things that I do, is presence and safety, and just them being who they are. And of course, learning all these other things so I can understand more. But if a lot of times when a parent comes to me and says, my kid's overactive, ADD, and he's messing with his brother and he's messing with his dad and he's messing with me and I'm going crazy and I just need help. How can we help him?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can we get him not so that? I learned that he just wanted to feel and know that he was loved. And I do a love bonding meditation where I intentionally sit them both down. I have them both think about what they love about each other. They both hold each other and they both tell each other face to face, this is the love. And in my intention of telling you this is to fill you up, so you know for sure that I love you. So as a parent, if you can just spend 5, 10, 15 minutes, I would like you to do it once a day, but maybe that doesn't work. So maybe every other day, every 2-3 days, and just literally say, I want to sit with you right now to fill you with love. And I'm going to tell you 2 or 3 of the moments that I love you so much. And I want you to tell me 2 or 3 moments, because I want love too. I want your attention just as much as you want mine. But I want you to know that I'm always here. And anytime that you don't feel it, you can remember, or you can come ask me and I'll fill you up. And if you do that, it will dissolve the energy, because ADD, to me, this is my own personal opinion, is rampant energy running around because they don't know how to figure out how to get the love they need, and they don't know how to say it. So it's just trapped, running rampant, and they need to go find a way to figure out how to get the love or attention they need, which is usually poking and tagging and running and being crazy. But I've helped kids just feel love, and then it evens them out. They find their center, which is turtle. They find their peace again. If they know they're loved, and it's not just something that's imagined, it's something that My intention is to fill you with love. 5 minutes, I just hold you and tell you I love you and tell you my favorite thing about you. That's like pumping the gas. It's like plugging in your phone.
Yeah.
And it does center them. And that's what's happening, is they're just not centered because they don't know the difference.
No, that's an absolutely relatable and fantastic point. I think the highlight of the podcast right there is having somebody who understands that. I think I may refer to myself as, ADD at times, because you start one project and then you start another one, and a lot of the time that's immediately related to people pleasing. That you're not doing it for you. You're trying to please somebody else with all these projects that you start. And if you are trying to do it for yourself, that you are trying to start a project for yourself, you get sidetracked because you have this whole laundry list of stuff to do, which oftentimes is typically for a person that you love, whether it be a spouse, whether it be a coworker, whether it be a friend. Aaron, I think we relate in the sense that we have so much going on together between this podcast and other stuff, just an outdoor gear company and podcast and our relationship. We often get disconnected because my work takes place, his work takes place, my family takes place, his family takes place, and you start getting pulled so many directions. And in reality, it is, I just wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel welcomed. I wanted to feel appreciated. I wanted to feel like I deserved something. And when you stop and think at the root of it, that this makes me feel loved, all of that chaos just dissolves. It is in the moment, I feel accepted. I feel wanted. I feel desired. I feel like I'm content. That chaos doesn't exist anymore. And that's a super great point for, children and adults alike, is you just wanted to feel loved. You wanted to feel appreciated. And if you have somebody that feeds that and can help talk through that, there's the power and the peace.
And all of that falls into Turtle, because Turtle's the teacher of transformation and teaches you how to calm the chaos, so that way you can find peace within. And if you can find peace within through stillness and silence, so that way you're calming all that energy down and sinking into your heart. So that's where you start, and breathing in with the breath of life into your heart. Well, now you find that peace. Now the thing that goes partnered to that is purpose, is helping them know that they're loved, but then also helping them, actually, purpose is important, but actually knowing them to find their own self-love. I know that I can fill you up with love, you can fill me up with love, but I know before anything, I can go in my center and find my heart, and I can fill my own love up first. And that's where Turtle does, is you find your own self-love as well. And if you can help your child feel love, because they need you, because they're new to the earth, they're new to the world, feel love, understand love, you guys could talk about it and get a language and a dialogue going. Well, now you can ask curious questions. Well, what would you do to love yourself while I'm not here for you? Because I love you because I just filled you with love. But in the meantime, when you're not with me, what's one thing you could do to love yourself? And I do a whole thing on the 5 love languages and self-love, and really understanding how to articulate and understand love. And I have beautiful mentors like Eileen Dillon. She's 80 years a holistic family therapist. She does whole workshops on love. So like self-love and love bonding, those two, if you could teach your child how to love themselves, they're not going to be running on empty. Like, of course, you're their parent, so you give them that love. But if they can figure out how to love themselves, then their friend says they don't want to play, they're not going to have the end of the world. Then be like, okay, I'm going to go play my thing that I play with myself. And then they can have peace, and it'll be balanced, right? Because you do want friends. So it's not about not having them or having them so much. It's about, I'm my own friend, and I can play with my friends, but no matter what, I'm my own friend.
No,
This
fantastic.
self-love is so important. Oh my goodness.
Child or adult, or on your way to being an adult, that is an absolute key, and that helps unlock so much more.
Well, Josh, I want to be mindful of your time. I know we're right here about when you want to hop off, but man, now hopping on the whole self-love topic, man. I could talk about that for another hour. So, man, we'll have to have you back on again at some point, and we can continue this conversation on love and self-love and all that. Oh, that's fantastic.
That's exactly where I started. I started
Yeah.
with self-love. I had some coaches tell me, you need to say I am enough and you need more self-love. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was so like, what in the world is self-love? And then sure enough, it's the core, man. If you don't understand that, it's really hard to find your center. Because if you don't know what love is, or you don't know how to have it inside of you, or it's actually already inside of you, that's kind of like a little spoiler alert. It's already there. And when you realize how to be aware of that it's already there, you're just at peace. You're like, oh, I actually
Yes.
am loved. I actually do love myself. It's just the confusion, the lie that nobody understood, that's a lie, that I'm not loved, or I'm unlovable, or I'm not enough. Like, yeah. So thank you so much. And that's the really important one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you again so much for your time. Another great conversation. We're so thrilled to talk to you again. So thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
But it's an honor, and I really appreciate you guys. Brothers coming together, men coming together, holding the power of presence in a safe space to be able to just listen and share and connect and share the wisdom and the words that people are calling for right now. It's an honor, and I love that you guys love nature, because that's what we live on, right? Mother Earth. Like, imagine a world with only buildings. How horrible would that be? So, yeah, let's save some trees and connect and continue to grow.
Sounds great.
We love it. Thank you so much, Josh. We appreciate it, and we look forward to another episode with you.
I look forward to it as well, brothers. Have a good evening, everybody else. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Josh. Good night.
Thank you, Josh.
Have a good night, guys.
Well, that was another excellent episode. So thank you all for listening.
Yeah, the self-love piece, we talk about it consistently, and especially Josh's perspective on working with children. A lot of what we deal with as adults is ultimately impacted by the life that we had as kids growing up. And it comes a point as adults that we just think that is the norm. And a lot of this growth and change and perspective shift and developing into a new person takes a whole lot of effort to unpack. Josh is telling stories of using, the ant and the hare and the turtle, and relating that to a story that the child understands and the child can love. But as adults, we have to think about our own story. How would the character that we want to become, how would he react? How would she react? If we're in this mindset of everything is in our own control, we often limit ourselves of believing there's so much more. And when we put our story in front of us, the people that we were, the person that we were, or the person we want to become, the types of people we want to be around, use that as the role model to impact our decisions now, our emotions now, our thoughts, our feelings. And when presented with a thought or emotion that is almost unbearable or chaotic or aggressive or assertive, whatever the context is pull yourself out of that for a minute and think of how somebody else would react. Think of, if I want to be this person one day, would they be upset by this situation? Would they try and resort to a safe space? Would they try and think about the whys, the what, the how? Or would they just throw their hands up in the air and say, to hell with it, and F this, F that, I'm just gonna throw it away? I think it's all very relatable stuff. I think
Absolutely.
There is a lot of inner child work. No matter how old you are, no matter what kind of life you've lived, that inner child work is huge, and it helps unpack, traumas and emotional damage, and just the perspective shift of just thinking that there's so much greater out there.
Yeah, as adults, I think we really lose that sense of curiosity, that sense of adventure, that sense of anything is possible that we have as we have as kids. And I think throughout our childhood years and going into elementary, middle, high school, I think we are unfortunately taught that to become realistic and not dream so much, not stare out the window and wonder what life could really be, outside of just going to work, doing this or that. And we're kind of all put into this box, and we lose these curiosities that we had as a kid. And I think being an adult, finding that and having that in us is one of the best things we can have for us, because just because we're an adult doesn't mean we can't be curious, doesn't mean we can't dream, doesn't mean we can't want more out of life. And then just everything Josh is doing with teaching kids about emotional regulation, I think so many adults, we could all benefit from learning from that. If we could all have been taught that when we were kids and carry that through our lives, just think of how much better communication we could have with our spouses, our partners, our people at work. Just the simple act of communication, and not just combining all of our emotions, just pushing them away, and actually confronting stuff and being okay with stuff. So all our youth, in teaching our youth, and like you said, making that safe space for kids when they're young and impressionable, that's so freaking important.
His comment about just the ADD of wanting to feel loved is trying to grab attention. It hits home on so many levels. Just think about just trying to go and please people and do stuff and start project after project, and you realize there's no self-love, there's no actual love to the other person, because a lot of the time, in the 5 different love languages, Josh highlighted it, of just there are 5 love languages, is how do we cater to another person? If you're dropping stuff and trying to start project after project trying to please somebody and not putting priority onto the things that they need, it's often very hard to accept that and feel loved, and there's chaos in that. And the other piece is Aaron, to your point about just living youthfully, living with excitement, living with wonder, living with adventure. I think back to the video, it's been viral time and time again, is this kid's opening up Christmas presents. And you think of this young kid opening up Christmas presents. He could have been excited with the newest hot fad toy, or maybe his golden gift that he's always wanted. And he opens up the package and it's an avocado. And he goes, "It's an avocado!" And his excitement is just thrilling. Like, he's so excited that he got something different. That's what life is. Life doesn't hand us anything that we want. It's all just, everything should be excitement. It should be something to look forward to, whatever that unboxing may be. And that's perspective. That's the reality of changing and growing and trying to be somebody different, not only for the people around you, but for yourself. Live with excitement, live with wonder, go out and be joyful, because it sucks to be miserable. Like, why be miserable when there's something out there for everyone?
And it's a big part of it also is being able to find that happiness and that joy in doing things alone. You can't always look, when you're kids, you look up to your parents to help bring some of that excitement and whatnot in different activities and all that. But as adults, even if we're in a relationship, we still need to be able to go out into the world and have this curiosity on our own, and be able to be happy by ourselves, doing our own things and all that. We can't always be dependent on exterior sources for fulfillment or validation. or happiness or joy. We have to, goes back to the self-love. We have to love ourselves and chase that curiosity in ourselves.
100%. And that just being able to be content with yourself and telling yourself that you love yourself, you are worthy, you are, able, you are more than you've ever been told. Before asking somebody to tell you how great you are, make sure you can tell yourself that you're great.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like there's any hesitation with telling yourself that you're great, maybe you've got some work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and that's okay too, to come to that realization. If you come to that realization, that's a great starting point. You'll figure out what you don't love about yourself. Stand in the mirror. Maybe it's your appearance. Just stand there and stare at your eyes. Look deep into your soul. Tell yourself what you love about yourself and what you don't like about yourself, and what the things you find that you don't like. Go and make a list of what you can possibly change to make you love yourself more in those aspects.
For sure. And be reasonable. There's only so
Mm-hmm.
many things that you can change, especially in your current state. Maybe if you're a billionaire or multimillionaire, you can go and have surgery and you can do a quick fix. But even then, the quick fix is not the answer. There's
Yeah.
so many people with tons of money that can go out and have a surgery and they can have, injections and they can do this and they can do that. And, once time wears off, 30, 60, 90 days, couple years, whatever, they're right back to where they started. And diving deep, understanding yourself and loving yourself, I believe, is the key to longevity. I've never met an old person that didn't say that they loved life and they enjoyed life and they were willing to try new things. Now, there's always the occasional one-off. There's always a couple guys at the bar that smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day and a couple cases of cheap beer, and they've made it this far. But there's different forms of preservation, and the most natural inner preservation that you can take, I'm a firm believer, is the only way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And doing things the long way, the hard way, the right way. Those quick fixes that you said, going and getting surgery, 30, 60, 90, 100 days, year later, you just filled a spot for a little bit when you do these quick temporary fixes. The best way to do it is do the deep work, do the hard work, really look deep into yourself and find out the real way to fix it, as opposed to just something quick.
I've got a relatable story I'd like to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, maybe 16 and a half, maybe 17-ish. I used to drive a 2004 Chevy Cavalier my mom handed down to me, little 5-speed hoopty. It was one of my favorite cars ever. It was the car for me. And this little Chevy Cavalier had stickers all over and a CB antenna, and it looked like a raisin going down the road with the amount of dents in it between my mom and myself. And I loved that car. I loved it with all that I had, and I never had money to go out and buy a nice truck at the time. And I put a nice set of all-terrain tires on it, and I used it for trapping seasons. 1 or 2 trapping seasons. There wasn't many, but off-roading and picking up deer and turkeys and raccoons, you name it. And one night I decided to go beaver trapping, and on my way to go set traps, I was driving down this little 2-track road, and the car was not high enough and the road was not good enough that I dragged the car over some really aggressive terrain, and I cracked the oil pan.
Yeah.
And Chevy Cavalier is a 2.2 Ecotech motor. You can usually buy them for like $300 scrapyard, and a couple hours you can get one swapped. And if the engine is that cheap, the oil pan, I think, is like 50 or 60 bucks to buy one at the time. And being young and dumb, I didn't have 50 or 60 bucks to spend. That wasn't for Copenhagen or trapping bait. I decided to go with a $5 tube of JB Weld.
JB Weld.
And I remember taking the oil pan off of that car. I went down by the wood stove and I cleaned it with carb cleaner and I sanded it and patched both sides of the oil pan with JB Weld. And damn, it worked. It worked great. And I drove the car around for a couple weeks. And then there was another night I was out bombing around and damaged the oil pan again. Within minutes, the car broke down, seized the engine, and I had to have it pulled home. And I think back to this, and the reason I want to share this is because that temporary fix cost me a couple bucks. The more permanent fix would have cost me a couple bucks extra. And I was young and dumb and aggressive and assertive and everything that I was, and I decided I was going to fix the car the cheap way, and it didn't hold.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about, these quick fixes in life, there's some things that we just have to go through to realize not only that there's a better way, but there's a humbleness in being able to take time and think about what you're doing. Just think about it, because that little two-wheel drive car should not have been on some of those roads that I was driving it down.
But it worked for the short term.
I had a hell of a bunch of fun.
Yeah.
I need another one. I'll do the same darn thing just because it was that much fun, but that's irrelevant.
Yeah, those the long, like, that's an excellent example. If you spend a couple more bucks, that maybe that car could still be running now. Who knows? We don't know. But there are some things that short term, a quick short term fix is easy. Like for instance, like your appearance. Maybe it's as simple as just go getting a freaking haircut. Trimming your beard different, doing your makeup different, whatever. So there are some temporary fixes, quick, easy fixes, but there's definitely a lot more in us that is, going to take a lot more work than that quick, go get a haircut. You got to do the inner work, and it's hard. It's tough. It's not fun to confront things within you that you've been living with for years and years, and never thought there was a problem until you realize, well, you know what? I think I do have a challenge here, and now how do I change it? Well, rewiring your mind to do things differently after you've been doing it for so long, it's a hard process. You're going to stumble, you're going to fall, you're going to fall back to your old ways, but you got to pick yourself back up, and keep moving the needle forward, and keep making those changes if you really want it.
There's a pain and a struggle in trying something new, and just something as easy as getting a haircut, trying a new hairstyle. Don't go all out and dye it pink or purple or blue, and just try something different. I have to say, I think it was your wedding was the first time I ever went and actually got my haircut. And I think to this day I still go and I ask for that same haircut. So the pain and suffering of, no offense, but my haircut lasted longer than the marriage. But
Yeah. Hey, no offense taken, not at all.
all right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We have a blast talking about this stuff. It's a deeper connection to reality. It's a deeper connection to our true selves. It's the opportunity to chase something wild, adventurous, and unknown. We walk off a random hiking trail and we get lost in the woods, or we just face a different challenge in life that we try and take a new path on and see what comes of it. There's so many synonyms and metaphors that we can talk about, but the reality is it all starts with ourselves. It all starts with good people that we're around, and the idea that today doesn't have to be the same as tomorrow.
Every day we wake up and we have an opportunity to change our lives, do something new. So, Be happy you woke up this morning. Be thankful for it. Thank the Lord. Count your blessings, and just take every opportunity, and love every minute of it. So thank you all. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night. Thank you.